Okay, now for the next part of our code. Let's go back to our air tube, and we now know how this works. Just takes her speed whenever she has a vertical speed, changes it to a manual value, in this case vertical up, and keeps it there until she's out of the block. So you could change that 0.3 to 0.6 and she'll move up twice as fast. Or you could make it lower and she'll jump and she'll slowly move up or whatnot. So we understand how that works. Now we can go on to the next spot. Now if you notice here, instead of 94, 98, B2, I have B4, which is now going to be BTS 4 instead of 3. That's why it has B4 here, and then it makes its temporary folder at the address there, and then it opens it up, 94, B400, and now we start our next piece of code. Now, this one's a bit more confusing on how it works. Now, if you look, it's going to load into the accumulator distance low, and distance low was this address right here, A0B5A. So let's find that right here. Move this distance vertically in subpixels. Okay, nothing confusing about that. It's exactly what we just got done doing over here, for the most part. Okay, now this is set carry. It's going to set the carry up for subtraction. You always do that before subtraction. Actually, most of the time, I guess you should say always. But or maybe this one is the one you do always. Yeah, well, for right now, you just do it always. I think there's some special circumstances when you don't have to do it, but like I said, I just basically know ASM, so I'm not the genius of know-it-all. So now we've set the carry, so now we can do our subtraction. Because the reason we're doing subtraction is because when you set this and you add a value to this vertically distance, it pushes her down. It doesn't push her up. Now, the difference between the one we just did and the one we were at was this one right here, if you remember. What do we have it set to? Vertical distance B2E. So right here, same as his vertical speed. So it's her actual vertical speed. While this one down here is to move same as this distance. So this one doesn't change her vertical speed. It manually moves her in pixels a certain direction. You don't get a choice of which direction you're moving. It's just going to move her vertically. But the thing is, this one doesn't say, okay, whenever you jump, it's going to move you vertically up this many pixels, and if you're falling, it's going to move you down vertically this many pixels. It's already set to move you down. So we need to make it move you up. So instead of, because we want the up air tube, so we can't just add, because that would increase the speed of going down. Instead, we have to do the opposite, which is subtract. So the higher we subtract, the more faster she's going to go up. So that's what we're doing. We're taking our distance low, which was the reason it's called distance low is because it's the distance vertically in subpixels. We're going to subtract our speed, so she moves up the amount of speed that we have, and our speed is somewhere F000. Remember, this is in subpixels, that's why it's such a big number. Then we're going to store that in the distance low pointer, or address. Okay. Now, originally I thought that would work, so I posted, or tried that, and it still pushed her down, and I later figured out, or somebody showed me, that this and this, whenever you see the doubles, or subpixels and pixels, is added together. These two are added together constantly. So if you wanted, you could have it set to where a certain block moves you like 1 pixel, and then half of, you can't do 1.5 if you wanted 1.5 pixels. You'd have to put 1 in the pixels, and then like, I don't know, however many would equal a half pixel, I guess, I don't know, 5,000 subpixels or something, or actually 8,000 subpixels, might be half a pixel, so you'd have both those. But anyway, they're adding together. And the problem is, we need to make sure that this distance stays the same, because if we add our negative value to whatever is stored here, when it's added together, it actually comes out back as a positive value. If you want to learn more about how this actually works, I'll give you the link to where it's discussed on the Metroid 2002 forums. But otherwise, just know this, that in order to get this to work correctly, you have to take the other value, which I'm not using, which in this case was the pixels one, which is why the distance high, if you scroll up right here, distance high was the regular pixels. I have to make sure that is set to a 0. So I do subtract 0, 0, 0, and store it to make sure it stays at the 0, 0 where it's supposed to be. Okay. Like I said, if you want to learn more exactly how that works, I'll, I guess, post a link to the Metroid 2002 forums on that particular topic, and then you can read up about that and try to figure it out. Now, after all that is stored, it also, at the end of this, loads Samus up into the accumulator. So I'll go back up here, and Samus up is somewhere. Need to close this. Okay, Samus up is where we at here. Samus pose. Alright, here we go. Samus up is 1. And it tells the game Samus is moving up. So if we go to that, or actually not that number, we have to go to the next step real quick. So we're loading Samus up into the accumulator after we've already established that this is going to move her up at a vertical speed. But now we're going to do this, which is load Samus up at 0, 1 for some reason, and then we're going to store it at Samus pose, which is an address. And if you look up that address, 0B36, 0B36 right here. 0, 0 means Samus is on the ground. 0, 1, Samus is moving up. 0, 2, Samus is moving down. So I have it set to 0, 1, so it tells the game that Samus is moving up. And the reason that I do that is because I found out whenever you launch that particular code of Samus, or set that particular code, it actually pushes Samus up to the air, up into the air, and it gives her that bounce, which I'll show you in a second. And then it returns. So let's figure out what this particular code does in the actual game, and we'll discuss it there. But just remember, since we wanted to go up and not down, we have to subtract the speed, not add it, or store it. Storing it, I guess, is the same thing of adding it. First, we just have to subtract it. So we're saying load distance low, clear the, or set the carry, subtract the speed, and then store it in distance low. And then load into the high, subtract 0, 0, 0, and then set it as 0, 0. Load Samus pose as 0, 1, and store it, so that way she's getting pushed up into the air. So that one's kind of hard to explain or understand. So check it out in our